Welcome to Tough Lies, the Golfers Podcast with Colin McDougall and Richard Zobel. Well, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Tough Lies, the Golfers Podcast with my wonderful friend, PGA Tour winner, Richard Zobel. How are you, Richard?
I am well, Colin. And yourself? Did you survive the Super Bowl and the Wasted Management Phoenix Open?
I went to the gym and I still gained 4 pounds. So, I think that was really the story for almost everybody. And it was a great week in sports for lots of reasons. Lots to talk about. Oh my goodness. So why don't we dive in? But before we do, we made a promise last week to our listeners that we were going to be up on the platforms, and son of a gun, Joe, our wonderful producer, has us up on the platform. So whether you're on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, wherever you get your true crime podcasts, you will also find Tough Lies, the Golfers Podcast.
Good work, awesome. Joe.
Yeah, way to go, Joe. We love you. Moving on, now that everybody can subscribe, tell their friends, and so forth, we had quite a week on the PGA Tour. Why don't we start there? I was curious, first of all, Chris got her up, giddy up.
Giddy up, got her up, got her done again. How about that?
He started off hot, then it's like he went for a siesta, and then
not a big one either.
Yeah, and then he brought it home like nobody's business.
Yeah, pretty impressive stuff. Obviously, he is the real deal. I mean, he handled himself extremely well. We discussed that at the Sony Hawaiian Open. And then now that was his third win in the past year. And let's jump back to last summer when he was going face-to-face with Rory McIlroy in the final round, and he shoots 66 to win.
That's right.
Like that doesn't happen, no intimidation. He has the internal fortitude and have the courage, which is, he handled himself so beautifully at the Hawaiian Open. And then, he took advantage of Hideki Matsuyama, who was making a mess of play with his driver. And he picked his pocket. He hit it in there so close to the last hole and got into a playoff. Hideki hit a poor driver again. Unfortunately, he was not on his game. He still played really well and perhaps should have won the tournament, but got her up, got her done, and very impressive where this guy is going. He's obviously the power and the hitting. And if you want to get into the golf course, how it played this past week was quite fantastic with how deep the rough was, how it slowed the ball down, and then if you hit the driver in the fairway, you got all this excessive run, so you were given an advantage if you were able to hit the fairway, which was wonderful to see. So very happy to see that.
Watching Hideki hit it, literally, I mean, he had to have quite the, where they track where each shot goes. I mean, it must have looked hysterically funny on the screen where you're watching, because he's making pars from all over the place, like fairways over. He's hitting it banana cut slice shots onto the green. He's making 30-footers for par like it's going out of style. And he almost bagged it, which is really impressive to pull off Sunday.
It is.
When you don't have your A game, it's very, very impressive.
It's very, staying on Hideki, talk about the resilience and like you've got it's going sideways off the tee. I mean, I would have thought he would have backed down to a 3-wood, because the 3-woods can nowadays go just as far as a driver. You could give him a little bit, but he managed himself extremely well as trying to pull off a win. When you're that bad off the tee as he was, and he only hit, this first fairway hit was on the 10th hole and it only landed by an inch on it. And then the sudden death playoff, his 3-wood on 17 in regulation almost found the water. And but so hats off to Hideki to be the professional that he is, and having the capability to stay in the hunt when things were going off behind him, including distractions from the gallery. Did you notice that, Colin?
I noticed that. I actually want to tap into the gallery distractions as a lead into the mind track moment, because
Okay.
I was thinking as I was watching that unfold. I can't wait to ask you a couple questions on it, but I want to save that for later. But I do want to give props to Goddard. He finished. He was 5 under for the last 6.
Mm-hmm.
With basically three. It's got to be 3 stadiums worth of people watching. That are equally blitzed, let's call it,
Wasted
to an
management.
NFL game. So yeah, the wasted management is like the perfect, absolutely moniker for this. And yeah, it was just a very, very impressive finish under those conditions. And I look at what he's doing right now, and like you said, he closed out that tournament with McIlroy last year, and I just think maybe we're sleeping on this guy, and maybe he's the next, real challenger to one of the top players on the planet.
Well, we get to watch him. So basically, also what he was doing, he was asked what this win is going to do, like the win at Sony Open, and he said it's going to free me up. And you know what? Bingo! That is that freedom that is so evasive in this game of golf, and we can talk about that. It fits into the mind track moment as well. But having the freedom to let her go. And is very empowering. And I like the fact that he's just not getting too excited. He's a pretty damn cool customer. Yep. And given with his physical ability, his ability to crush that ball and keep it in the fairway, we'll have to wait and see. But he's going to be a future top player of the PGA Tour. There's no question about that.
Yeah. Two birdies on 18, one in regulation where he hits it. I think the ball was up at his waist, basically, from the right rough there. Knocks it in, stone dead to 3 feet or whatever, makes that for birdie. And then I think he played a little safe in the playoff because of where Hideki had hit it in the water and so forth. And he bowls it in from 25 feet.
And back to Hideki a little bit here. One more comment on it. In regulation, when he pulled his tee shot into the bunkers in the church pews, he only had a 9-iron. It was an easy shot. It was just as easy as he must have caught it a little thin. Didn't get the lift on it, catching the lip of the bunker. But that was his bad shot. He should have won that golf tournament with hitting that shot, 2-putting on, and being Hideki and being the champion again.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I did want to mention, too, I was catching up on all things tour related. I didn't really appreciate myself. We have a small army of Canadians on the Korn Ferry Tour. And I was mentioning before we jumped on here, I want us to have somebody on from Golf Canada and give us a briefing on all these players. I mean, I couldn't be more excited as a Canadian to see what's coming on the horizon.
Sure.
I mean, we already have a wonderful following. And it appears to me like it's only going to get better as we look ahead.
Well, the Golf Canada has a long-term player development plan that is built around the framework of putting 30 players on combined on the PGA Tour and the LPGA Tour, and we have a new chief sport officer, Paul Perrier, and I've been speaking to him last week as well, and. I think I can give him a call and we can have him talk about our wonderful players. We're getting pretty deep and it's growing at a very rapid rate. So
and kudos to them for doing it. They really have a pipeline coming, and that is a sign that the development efforts of Golf Canada is working.
Absolutely,
good for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, I did want to pivot a bit from that. I felt like it was worth mentioning, about our upcoming Stars of Tomorrow from Canada, but also I think we'd be remiss. We had a really great conversation about the Ryder Cup a couple episodes ago, our first one actually, where we talked about sort of the unruly behavior. We saw that rise up again at the Wasted Management Open, and I just wanted to. I think everybody knows that this is a unique, PGA at least for now, PGA Tour event where the crowds are insanely large. The 16th hole is an enclosed stadium, basically, where tens of thousands of people who get there first thing in the morning and are drinking all day long. And the implications of that are clearly being borne out by some of the behavior we're seeing while the leaders are playing, and some specific incidents. And what I was hoping to get your point of view on is, like, is this something we should be expecting to see more of as this transition in the tour happens? Like, is it a harbinger of things to come, or is it just a one-off? We're going to have to deal with this in Phoenix every year. What do you think?
Well, when you listen to the players, and the players are going to have a say in the matter, they control the PGA Tour with the seats on the board of directors, it's good on a one-off. So I think the acceptance of the wasted management Phoenix Open is one that is accepted. And quite frankly, where they've come from the debauchery year a few years ago is a significant improvement. You know, I noticed the final group when Scotty was in the last group there, they were tentative. They were paying attention to the golf. The rowdiness wasn't there. Yes, there's going to be a couple of occasions where the buffoon, there was this one content creator that was getting in trouble, getting himself into trouble, and he was, I don't even know his name, he's a young punk that paid a guy $100 if he yelled in Mac Hughes' backswing, jackass. So they threw his ass off, and the person that he paid the $100 off the site, and which was great. So I think generally speaking, it was managed very nicely, and there's always going to be a few occasions, but I don't think the PGA Tour needs more than one of these things, and WM. Wasted Management Phoenix Open has found its spot, and I think they handled the situation quite well. A lot of police out there, and I think it was well done.
There's almost no way to truly control that size of an audience with that level of inebriation over that many days. Exactly. You're going to have some, you call it casualties of what you've built for yourself. I do see in other tour events that they would like nothing more than to have something that's as compelling and rich a sort of live golf experience. You know, even with the Canadian Open, we see the rink where they build that sort of those stands and that sort of specialty packaging around it. I don't think it's as pervasive to sort of like, hey, come here at 3 a.m. and get hammered all day long and let's, pretend you're drunk hockey players. I don't think that's it. But I worry that when we look ahead, we condense the number of events, the heightened focus on profit, ticket volumes being therefore likely higher because it's just more revenue, more profit for the organization that is the PGA Tour. I just wonder whether this is going to become more common than where we are today.
Well, that question has been raised a few years ago. And I think the PGA Tour has dealt with it. I mean, if you look back, I remember back in 1983, my second year on the PGA Tour, just telling us, the party scene is called the Bird's Nest. It's the biggest party in all of Phoenix for the year. And back before they created TPC Scottsdale, it used to be at Phoenix Country Club. And I remember just off the first tee, there was a big tented area that was connected to the clubhouse. And I remember Nelford and Gary McCord and I walked into it on a Friday night. I missed the cut, and we went in there. And Gary McCord says, "Oh, they just blacktopped the tent." And I said, "Oh, why would they want to blacktop it?" He said, "Oh, it's just easier to hose down the vomit." So I mean that was the harbinger to become. And the concern was on the golf course on Saturdays for the third round and Sundays for the fourth round is finding condoms and ladies' underwear on the fairways because it would spill over from the party and go onto the golf course, and this is what happened back then. So it's come a full world around, and only they do it at such a massive level now. So there's a little bit of
so it's just tradition, the Phoenix tradition, we'll call it, I guess.
Yeah, I guess you could say it was normal for Phoenix.
Yeah,
and part of how the wasted management has evolved over the years.
Yeah, no kidding.
Had to throw that story in there. Sorry.
Yeah, no. It's. I mean, it's. Well, I guess it's it's helpful context because it's clearly been going on a long time. It's part of the culture of that event. There's no question that that event itself is filled with a whole bunch of people who don't even golf.
It's
but
not
go
about
there
golf for them. Yeah.
for the event itself and what it entails. So
Yeah.
so I get that, and yeah, I think it'll be very interesting. I wonder if one of the themes we're going to be talking about both on this show and in general about golf is increasingly challenging fan behavior. And whether it's, and I think there's a lot that feeds into it, the politics of the world, all kinds of things. But I just wonder whether that's going to become more pervasive. The growth of the game focus, where we're bringing people under the tent who just have a very different idea around what golf is from others. It's going to be very interesting.
It is.
To that. Here on Tough Lies, we like to have interesting dialogue about sort of different and deeper and more thoughtful and challenging subjects. And we talked in previous episodes, there's a major transition underfoot with PGA Tour moving from a non-for-profit or non-profit entity to a for-profit entity. One of the things that I've come to learn because of my relationship with you, which I think very, very few people actually know, was there was once a movement that you know the history of and were a part of around unionizing the PGA Tour. And I wonder if first, this may have to be a two-parter or even more on the subject, but I think it's worth getting started about it because I think there's kind of interesting implications around that notion as it pertains to what's happening right now. So maybe, would you mind sort of giving our listeners a bit of a history lesson on that and sort of
Sure.
where did it start and how it came and all that?
Yeah, it was around 2000, 2001. I was trying to play as a life member of the PGA Tour, having won. I was on the Korn Ferry Tour, then trying to get getting back up to the PGA Tour. And there was the group was led by a veteran player named Danny Edwards, and he owned a company called Royal Groups, took the company public and so forth, and knew a lot about business. Those of us younger players in the tour never learned about the functionality of organizations and so forth, and board of directors and who controls what. And Dean Beeman always said that the players own the tour, and I'm kind of going, oh, that's a bunch of crap, because I don't have a share certificate when I became a life member, and so there was a movement by an ad hoc group of 25 players. Payne Stewart was part of our group, and
really,
yeah,
okay.
And we as an organization wanted to get the books for the PGA Tour, and as members of a private organization, we were entitled to them, but we never could get them. They would say, ask us a specific question, and we will cite from the books and get them back to you. So and it was just like we were getting stonewalled. Oh, go ahead.
They would say, right? Was it like, could you write this on a comment card, and then we will come back with the exact answer for just that question?
Pretty much. That was it.
Oh my
So
goodness.
we were really upset. So we hired a Boston law firm called Ropes and Gray. Ropes and Gray is a significant law firm in Boston that brought the NBA and their players union back, I think it was 71, 72, or 73. So, and they were working on a contingency basis, and we got stonewalled so hard. And there were basically a group of guys that were like me, that weren't big names on the PGA Tour, but had some concerns. And we had Payne Stewart was going to be our kind of representative. And it was very risky, because if you kind of go against the PGA Tour and you're on that list, you get on the shit list. And
sure.
That's that was a big concern. But we fought it, and we didn't make the progress. So the question becomes, at some point of evolution, now that the PGA Tour, now the one thing that the players have in their favor is the players have the majority of the board. So the player, it's led by Tiger. He's kind of the spokesperson for the PGA Tour, but it's showing right now he is looking to probably work on behalf of the players that are the stars of the PGA Tour rather than the journeymen of the PGA Tour, because this whole contraction thing that brings people the number of spots down, that doesn't go against the journeyman's best interest, but it does go to the top players' best interest. So with the PGA Tour evolving the manner in which it is, perhaps it's time to get a players' union. And you know, maybe we need that, maybe we don't. There's another thing that I thought I'd like to see is, in order to grow wealth on the PGA Tour, I'd take 50% or less, 49% of the company, and go public with it. I think the PGA Tour needs to be a public entity where the like as a would I as a lifetime member of the PGA Tour, I'll invest in it. Just give me some preferred shares and I'll invest in it. Wouldn't the average person who's a golf nut want to invest in the PGA Tour? Now that's something that I think might be of an interest as well. So who knows where it's going to go? We're going to see.
Today's episode of Tough Lives is brought to you by Fairway Foresight, the AI-powered digital caddy, yardage, and strategy app for golfers who want to stop making the same mistake every single round. Fairway Foresight doesn't just give you a number, it analyzes your patterns, your shot tendencies, their dispersion, and decision making. And then it shows you what you should do, not what you wish would happen. If you ever thought, I probably should hit driver here, and hey, who hasn't? But I'm going to hit driver anyways, this app is the one for you.
Let me ask you a couple follow-ups on this, and then I'll maybe share a couple thoughts that I've had about it. So I got to understand some of that story that you just mentioned, and I'm still fascinated by it because I think the implications would have been so significant. And one of the things I wondered about all is, yes, you hire that law firm, and did it ever come to light, or did you ever get an understanding? Like, if you look at the NHL and you look at the NBA, it's a 50-50 split, players to owners, right? My impression of the PGA Tour and I think the image that they've wanted to put out for a very, very long time is that there's a massive support for charitable efforts, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I wondered, like, were you ever able to get a sense of what was the mix between management and players in terms of the overall dollars in, dollars out?
Well, all we did find out later on towards, into when like 2020 hit, that the top line revenue base was 1.3, I believe it was. You have that number, and so the PGA Tour was making a lot of money, and we just wanted to get into the books to find out where the money went, because if money was coming in here and went out there and coming in here and going out the other place, we wanted to find out where it was. So I have to believe if Brian Rowlap and his team at the PGA Tour, if they're looking to get a return on investment to their investors, as Signature Sports Group, as we mentioned, wrote that check and invested into the PGA Tour, the for-profit company, for $1.5 billion, and they got another $1.5 billion ready to go again if need be. But the PGA Tour has they gotta get some equity, significant lift in order for them to pay back this debt. They're not going to do it with the sales of golf balls and golf clubs and golf shirts and hats and so forth. They have to do it with the form of, what's the overall equity of the PGA Tour worth? Can they liquidate it when it goes up? What's the strategy on that?
I would be very interested to know, as this unfolds, whether the purses out are in any way commensurate to the percentage salary, let's say, like in the NHL, it's very clear. Hockey related revenues, 50%. 50% of all revenues go to the players in the form of salaries. They have a cap, and that's and it gets that amount gets divvied up pro rata amongst players based on their ability and contracts. So
right. Yes, and also, if I could jump in just 1 second.
Sure.
Right now, there are no franchise out there, so there's no owners. So, Brian Rowlap is the CEO of the private company. So he has to answer to the board of directors, which is the players now, or Tiger, basically. And Tiger's all ears. He's listening to him, and I think Brian Roloff and his team are doing a good job. But I think there's a couple of steps ahead that you're talking about that we're going to see where we're going to get going to.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting. I mean, I wonder whether they'll ever put that out as sort of the announced percentage of, for every dollar the PGA Tour brings in, 50% goes out in purses. The other, because even with that, my argument would be that because the PGA Tour does not have nearly the infrastructure costs of these other sports, there's no arenas, there's no, yes, they have 2 or 18 wheelers, but in a lot of cases the venues are either giving up their golf course or paying to have those events held. The TV production is paid for by the people who are putting it on. Sponsors, so that when you look at the actual, what are the functional costs that go against a given event, I got to believe they are far less than a traditional bricks and mortar event driven business like NHL or like MLB or NBA. And therefore, at minimum, the players should be trying to garner from a payment standpoint somewhere in the order of magnitude of what the other major tours or the other major sports are getting. And I don't know whether they'll ever voice that. I'm very interested to see what's going to unfold. But for me, it just seems like for far too long, the structure around compensation for players within the PGA Tour has been kind of shrouded. And you don't really get a sense of how much comes in and how much goes out. And I think where there's mystery, there's margin, as we would say in marketing. And I wonder where up until now the margin has gone. And I'm also very interested as to where the margin goes in the future.
It's a good question. And it hasn't been, we're going to find out that roadmap within the next 4, 5, 6 months, I think.
Yeah.
So what do you think? What do you think about the Players being a major championship? Did you hear this one?
Yes, it was on my. That was on my list.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I just barged right in there.
I'm very happy you bring it up.
Brandel Chambly put it out.
Brandel Chambly, your friend Brandel Chambly, and I think it's crazy. Honestly, I think that's. I mean, who wakes up in the morning and thinks the Players is in any way a major? What I would say is I think there is a sound argument to be made that it is the stiffest competition all year long in terms of the size and strength of field relative to the other 3 majors, because in the PGA, there are PGA pros, like regular day-to-day golf pros who get a certain number of slots. The Masters is a far more limited field, and the U.S. Open, in theory, amateurs and so forth can get on a hot streak and qualify. So I think from a pure strength of field, there's an argument there. Beyond that, I think maybe our friend Brandel spent some time in Phoenix this week or something, because I don't know what he's talking about.
Well, I am of the opinion that it should be a major championship. I do. I think, and you know what? When Brandel put that out there, well, here's the deal. I mean, we got the USGA running the U.S. Open. We got the RNA representing the world and the governing body over the UK. The Masters is run by a private membership club. I don't like that. I like the Masters is certainly, it should be a major. There's no question. But I don't like the fact that a private golf club, particularly one so embedded in bigotry, has the power that they do. The PGA of America. Now, the Players are the greatest assets for all these events, and the Players don't have a top 5 tournament. The majors and the Ryder Cup are there. Now, if you look back to 1930, Bobby Jones won the Grand Slam. It was the British Open, British Amateur, U.S. Open, U.S. Amateur. What determines whether a tournament is a major or not is there's no designation, or you just declare that you're a major, but you have to have some basis behind it. And I think the Grand Slam when Bobby Jones won, the two U.S. amateur and the British amateur evolved out of it. And then the PGA of America evolved in, and the Masters evolved in, and the PGA the PGA Tour, as a governing body of the tournaments, need to have their own designated event. And because of the arguments that Brent will put up, which are pretty strong, and you just made, the declaration, the PGA Tour and the people just need to say, we are a major, this is what we do, this is who we are, and this is what we're going to do in the future, and just make claim to it. And there's 5, and that's the way it is. It's just, there's no, like, the media don't vote on it. You just declare that you are a major, and I'm with Brandel 100% of the way.
You know what? I got to say, I think I'm sold on that philosophy in general. And I can't wait to just use it around the household here, where I can just declare things and they'll just be, like
That's right.
I'm sure that won't get me in any trouble whatsoever in my household. Where it's, you know what? This is, I declare this to be, honey, and therefore it is. Yeah. So I don't know. Like I said, I think there's an argument to be made by strength of field. I think there's a logical argument. All I'm saying is I think it's unlikely to ever be borne out that way.
Well,
and,
these evolve
we'll
in
see.
and they evolve out. It's either so.
And again, if I was going to support your argument,
Yep.
at one point, LPGA had 5 majors.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yes, they did.
it's not. There's no magic to 4 as a number per se.
That's right.
So it's definitely possible, and if we get the right sponsor on board, I can be. I'm just kidding. I can be sold. Now, I did want to also circle back to. We talked about fan behavior earlier.
Yep.
I wanted to frame some discussion from a fan behavior standpoint on the mental side of playing, and in particular, sort of how to deal with distractions when you're playing. I think we've seen lots of examples on tour, especially of late, of sort of fan-based distractions. But
Sure.
I think I'm looking for your insights from a mental side within the game, like how can players,
Sure.
people, golfers, good, bad, otherwise, do better
Right.
at managing when there are distractions in front of you?
Well, there are distractions, whether they're by a content creator in social media, or if an officer drops his chair in the back of Hideki's backswing on the 18th tee, and you back off or stop your motion. We see that. So basically, what you need to do, it's you have to improve your perspective. You have to have a pre-shot routine and a shot routine. So you go into that bubble. Your pre-shot routine is getting your distance, getting your lie, getting, the weather, all these things that factor into you making a decision on a type of shot you're going to hit. And so when it's your turn to hit and you go up to your ball, your discipline is to focus on getting your key performance markers on what the yardage is. And you focus on that. You don't start telling a joke at that time when it's your time to hit. And then once you do all your yardages and you decide on what club you hit, then you go into your shot routine. Now, do you remember last year in San Diego when we were watching Justin Rose and Joe Damon, play the final round? Joel Damon has, I think, the perfect routine, and he drove it perfectly last week. So what he does, he stands behind his ball, and he moves in. Once he moves right in, he doesn't take a practice swing. He 1 look, 2 look, and he fires that thing, and he hits it down that left side and hits this big cut. His shot routine takes 6 seconds. So
Right.
The idea is to, if you don't have a shot routine, go to your pro. Say, look, I would like a lesson on how to determine my shot routine. You can change it from time to time, but you come to rely on it. So let's go take a look at Justin Rose's shot routine. So this is what his, if you can picture Justin Rose in San Diego, he takes his stance, he pulls his left leg back, and he rotates around his right hip. And then he brings his left leg back in, and he takes his swing to the back, his full back, and then he does this exaggerated drop of his plane down that looks like a contortionist act. And then he swings it through and finishes up. Then he goes into the ball, and his routine takes between 38 and 41 seconds. So his is a longer routine. Now, Justin Rose he's a very skilled mental person. He's hard to disrupt. The routine that he relies on, it gets him through these pressure situations. Let me tell you, there's one most pressure situation I've ever had at the time. It was on Sunday of the 1992 U.S. Open at Pebble Beach. And I'm playing with Paul Azinger and Ron Reed of the USGA. We're on the first tee, and I shoot 72, 72, 72. I'm right in the middle of the hunt of the U.S. Open. And Ron Reed says to me, Richard, we're coming out of commercial in 45 seconds, and you can hit your tee shot. Well, I just went right into the scorer's tent and started hyperventilating because of the pressure on the situation. So I caught my breath. I was breathing in and out, and I'm going, okay, this is what this is what your routine's all about. Just get out there, execute your routine. I was hitting a 2-iron off the tee. I went through my routine and hit the most powerful, best 2-iron I've ever hit. So your routine gets you through these difficult situations. You can't, if you allow your mind to wander, you need to occupy your mind with the specifics and the sequence of the shot routine, and that's what gets you through it. So how well you do your pre-shot routine, which is a key performance marker, or how well you assess and make a decision of the shot you have. Do you have the right club? And then your other key performance marker is the routine. So pre-shot routine and routine. And when you get to your hole. So I highly recommend everyone go out there. If you don't already have a shot routine, go get one and get your PGA Pro to teach you one and to improve yours, so you can handle those difficult situations that you will definitely face on the golf course.
Yeah, I think so many shots are misplayed by average golfers because they don't have a routine. And if they would just bake that into their habits, their improvement would be so vast.
The routine, once you do it and start to rely on it, it becomes very rhythmic. And then that rhythm needs to be in your attention to your mind. You don't stand there over the ball and go, oh, I want this to be hit. Please hit the fairway, or don't hit it out of bounds. You're in trouble when you do that. You say, this is my routine. You need to go through it. And once you create your routine on the driving range, you practice it. You don't just hit shots aimlessly. You stop, you pull the club out of the bag, you start from behind the ball, go into your routine. If you want to short, now the reason why you want it short is because there's less things can go wrong. Now, if anything goes wrong, like the drop of a chair by the in the back of on Hideki's downswing,
some asshole paying somebody $100 to chirp you in the background,
right? Or that you can either, and if something breaks your routine, you have to stop and reboot and do it all over again. So if you have a long routine like Justin Rose's and it's 40 seconds, boy, you're going to be eating up too much time. Keep it tight. I like it about 8 seconds to 12 seconds, and if you get your shot routine established, that's what'll get you through to playing the best golf of your life.
Yeah, well, that's a helpful point, because one of the things I want to ask you is, you saw in the playoff with Hideki, he pulled a Tiger where he was about to hit the shot, and he literally stopped himself mid-swing, which I have got to think is like very difficult to physically pull off. Like, put full brakes on when you're about to go full send, I think is really challenging. And I was curious whether you think that's a good idea, or whether you should just bite the bullet and send it.
Yeah, I think you got to send it. I mean, you're committed to it. You're, like Tiger's dad used to jingle his change and move around just so Tiger could plow through those distractions. So
wait a minute, was his dad Seve Ballesteros?
Yeah, Seve would do that in the golf tournament, in the Ryder Cup, exactly. But just to toughen up, so it's harder for you to get disrupted. But we did watch Tiger. Tiger did that all the time.
Yeah.
I think,
Yes.
So you got to get to a point where you have one, and then there's a point of no return where you can't do it. But obviously, I don't think I've ever started my downswing and heard something and stopped my swing. I don't think I've done that.
Yeah.
Once I start down, it's gone. It's out there. So I don't know how Hideki did it.
I do not have the body control for that at all. It's like,
Yeah, I don't get that. But anyway, but I think you need to learn how to do that, because there's going to be times when there's going to be distractions. And I remember Bert. I played golf with. I had the opportunity back in early '80s playing with a guy named Bert Yancey. Bert Yancey was a great pro. Tom Weiskopf's best friend. He had a bipolar disorder, and he got institutionalized. And he came out and played on tour, and I'll never forget. I was just like, I like Bert Yancey. He's one of the best players ever. And I'll never forget, we're going in, and he wasn't happy with his play, and he was talking to himself and coming in there, and he says, "God damn it, Bert," he says, "you can hear birds farting out on the fairways," meaning, his attention to keep it tight wasn't there. He was easily distracted, or having rabbit ears, as they say. There's a lot of things that can disrupt you that so once you get into your pre-shot routine, lock in, get her done, and then your shot routine, you lock in there and get it done. Keep it tight and execute the hell out of it.
now I would be remiss. I almost jumped over this last episode, but I've learned my lesson, because my wife's like, I want more stories from Richard. I want one every week. So I am hoping that you've got a story for us as well from back in the day.
I do. And there's going to be some stories, and I hope to one day get Brandel on. The story I'm going to tell you about Fulton Allen. Do you remember that name, Fulton? Allen?
Yeah, he was like the coolest. He was a character.
Well, character is right, and he was a big rough guy. He's from South Africa. Comes from a family that has a lot of wealth, owned a lot of land and cattle and land and agriculture in South Africa. He won the World Series of Golf to become an exempt player. And Fulton was a no-nonsense guy. I played a lot of golf with him. And he had no problem getting into a fight if need be. And he was arrogant, and he had a manner about him that he got into, literally almost got into some fist fights with him. Not me. But anyway, we're playing. This story goes, and it's a story. I mean, I wasn't there to hear about it, but it was a great story. Fulton is playing in a practice round at the British Amateur. They're playing in Scotland somewhere. I don't think it was the old course, because right up against the tee there was a Scottish farmer sitting on his tractor. He was watching. He was taking a break. He was plowing his land or doing whatever farmers do with their land. And Fulton comes up to him, and he says to him in his South African accent to the Scottish farmer, he goes, "How many acres do you have here?" And the Scottish farmer, he goes, "Well, lad," he says, I've got me 50 acres. Very proud. He's probably been in the Scottish family's family for generations. And Fulton, this young guy at the time, he says, "Back on my ranch in South Africa, you could ride a horse from sun up till sundown and still not get halfway across my land." And the wise old Scottish farmer says to him, he says, "Laddie," he says, "I used to have a horse once like that myself." So Fulton, there are so many. I've got a bunch of Fulton Allen stories, and I do want to get Brandel Chambly on this show when the time's right. Okay. Because he tells a story about Fulton Allen. I got another Fulton Allen story. My roommate from college, he got onto the PGA Tour for 1 year. His name is Kent Kluba. He's a very dear friend of mine, and the tournament's in Doral, and he's not getting into any of these tournaments. He's totally intimidated by being on the PGA Tour. Wonderful guy. And it's Wednesday before the tournament, and he's on the putting green. Everyone's putting. It's the night before the event. Guys are grinding it out. And Kent's out there nervously, and he's looking around, and all these guys' heads are down doing their stuff. And he's trying to make eye contact and just, find something nice about this intimidating situation. And Fulton's head's up like this, and Kent's eyes meets onto Fulton's eyes, and he gives him a little smirk, and Kent gives Fulton a little bit of a smile, and Fulton goes, "Rook, what the fuck are you looking at?" And poor Kent, he just says nothing, and he goes back about his business. But Fulte can be a bit of an intimidating guy. He likes to push his weight around. So there's a number of Fulton Allen stories that Fulte.
Well, I look forward to more of them.
Right.
Yeah, can't wait. So time to wrap up. So we have Pebble Beach next week.
Yes.
I may have a Pebble Beach story to share next
All right.
week. Not from on the tour, but it involves Fred Couples and a lack of underwear. So I'm going to cue that up for next week. So that's the teaser for next week. But before we go, anything you want to leave our listeners with?
Sure.
In terms of things we should take away from tonight?
Couple things. Patrick Reed has just finished his first, second, and first. So he is on his way on getting back to the PGA Tour. Yeah. And you can see the excitement in him. And this road is being paved for him to get back to the PGA Tour. Yeah. And once again, to be that perfect bad guy for the PGA Tour. I think that's great. Brooks Koepka kind of crapped out a little bit, missing the cut on in Phoenix, and I think his putting woes in San Diego, he was dead last in putting, strokes gained on putting. He lost 2.37 strokes per average on the PGA at San Diego, and then he went on to putt even worse in Phoenix. So, his ability to perform is a bit in question, but there were bigger things to focus our attention on after he missed the cut on Saturday, and that was the Wasted Management Phoenix Open and all the interesting things that happened on the weekend. Yeah,
it was in some ways a very typical Phoenix week, I guess you'd say. Like, some really good golf, some crazy antics amongst the fans. Some high drama at the end, kind of a typical week. So, and look forward to seeing more. I did want to just close off the show by saying, thanks again. Colin McDougall, Richard Zook, of course, Tough Lies podcast, the Golfers Podcast. We are now on the platforms. Make sure, refer a friend, add us to your subscribe list. You can find us on Apple Music, iTunes. I don't even know what it's called anymore. Spotify, YouTube, all that stuff. And exactly. We do have a website, Tough Flies podcast.transistor.fm. And so if you want to know more about or find the old episodes, know more about us, all the details are there. And we have an Instagram, and it's at Tough Flies Podcast on Instagram. So follow us there. Look forward to doing this every week. I'm having so much fun doing this. Richard, thanks again, and all the best, and we'll talk next week.
I'm looking forward to it, Colin. We got more stories.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Have a great night, everybody. Join us next week on the Golfers Podcast with Richard Zook and Colin McDougall.